Let's look at an example walkthrough of AI, a high-value AI workflow. And we're going to look at what it does, why it matters, and how it's measured. And this is not a client case study. It's an example we use internally to demonstrate the standard work we do, which is a clear scope, reliable handling of exceptions, and measurement that makes sense in normal business terms. Our positioning at 80/20 Green is AI for what matters most. AI can help in many places. The point is to start with the work that creates clear operational benefit first, then expand in a controlled way. The workflow we're walking through today targets a familiar problem for many small and medium enterprises. Requests arrive through multiple channels. The quality of information provided varies, follow-up is inconsistent, and work gets stuck in between handoffs between people in the business. The cost of that pattern is usually not just time, it's uncertainty. Customers wait longer than they should. Internal teams can chase information that already exists, useless rework basically, and managers lack visibility into what is happening and what is being blocked in the business. So the aim of this workflow is simple: to turn an incoming request into one that is a tracked, owned piece of work with consistent next steps without turning the business into a bureaucracy. Here's the reference workflow in plain English. A request arrives. It could be a web form, an email, or a message from a customer. The system captures the request and stores the raw content as a source of truth. We always referenced later. The request is then triaged or prioritized. How important is this request? AI assists by classifying the request into one of a small number of categories that the business already uses as well and understands. So this is the other element of priority. So not just urgency, but what type of request is this? For example, is it a request for a quote? Is it a schedule or a booking change? Is it a support issue? Is it a billing query? Is it something else that needs review? The key point is that the categories are defined by the business, not the model. We keep the number of possible classifications small, or categories small. It improves reliability and reduces confusion. Then key fields are extracted. AI pulls out the details that usually determine the next step, such as the customer name and contact details, when available, the location or site if relevant, the requested date, the urgency indicators I mentioned before, and the core intent of the request in one sentence. If information is missing, the workflow prepares a clarification request rather than guessing. Step 4 is a draft response is prepared. AI would draft the response using the business's preferred tone and templates. In many businesses, this is where time is lost, retyping the same framing, asking for the same missing details, and finding the right attachments or length. Now, drafting is not the same as sending. Drafting reduces preparation effort. Sending still remains a decision. Step 5, a task. The workflow creates a task in the system of record, whether it be the CRM, the help desk, or a task manager, with an owner, a due date, and a clear next action. This is where the workflow becomes operational. Someone is responsible, and the system makes that follow-up visible. Step 6 is to follow up, so that the follow-up is managed. If a response is needed from a human and nothing happens, the workflow prompts a follow-up based on business rules. For example, to ensure that the draft response to the inquiry is reviewed and then sent to the person who made the inquiry. Step 7, closure is recorded. When the work is done, for example, a quote is sent, the booking confirmed, or the issue resolved, the outcome is recorded. That then closes the loop for measurement. In this workflow, AI helps in 3 main ways: classification or triage, extraction, getting structured fields from the data, getting the data put into structured fields, and drafting, first pass content. AI doesn't decide pricing, commitments, or exceptions that require judgment. These decisions stay with a person. This is deliberate. It keeps accountability clear and makes adoption easier for teams who are rightly cautious about customer-facing outputs. So a useful workflow needs measurements that a business owner can relate to. For this reference workflow, we track a small number of metrics. The first response time, how long it takes to acknowledge and respond to a request. The time to assign ownership, how quickly a request becomes a known task. 3, the completion time, how long cases take to close by category. 4th, rework indicators, how often we needed a second clarification because key details were missing. 5, the exception rate. How often the workflow escalates to a person because the request was unusual. These are operational measures. They don't require complicated attribution. They answer practical questions. Are customers waiting less? Are staff spending less time on repeated preparation? Are we losing fewer items in handoffs? Are exceptions being handled explicitly rather than invisibly? 2 guardrails matter in almost every business workflow. First is to make the default output a draft. For customer-facing text, draft first keeps quality high and reduces anxiety. A person can approve, edit, or discard. Second, escalate unusual cases. The workflow must be able to say, this doesn't fit the normal pattern. A person should decide. It's not a failure, it's a design feature. We also keep logging what came in, what category was chosen, what fields were extracted, and what draft was produced. This makes troubleshooting practical so we can improve the AI tool or automation. So what a buyer should look for when someone shows you a workflow. For evaluating an AI provider, this is what I suggest you look for. Can they explain the workflow end to end without hiding behind tools or just talking about the tool only? Can they describe how exceptions are handled? Can they explain what is measured and why? Do they keep ownership and accountability clear? Can they show you the artifacts, such as the process map, opportunity register, prioritization, and acceptance criteria? So that's the difference between we can build something and we can deploy something that holds up in normal operations. This workflow is an example of what we at 80/20 Green mean by AI for what matters most. It's not that other opportunities don't exist. They usually do. It's that starting with high volume, high friction workflow creates momentum. It builds confidence, it clarifies data ownership, and it gives the business a reliable foundation for expanding AI into other areas. So to make this more tangible, here's a type of internal reference scenario that we use. Imagine a small operations team receives 30 to 80 inbound items per week. Some are straightforward, some are missing details, some need a specialist. Historically, the same 3 issues appear. Initial responses vary by person, by day. Follow-up relies on the memory of the people, and the owner is not always clear when the request crosses systems. In the reference workflow, the first change is that every inbound item becomes a ticket or task with the owner and a due date. Now that sounds basic, but it changes behavior immediately. People can see what exists, what is waiting, and what is overdue. The second change is that the AI-assisted triage produces 2 useful outputs: a category that determines routing rules and a 1-sentence summary that removes the need for everyone to reread the entire request. The third change is the draft response. Even when a person edits it, it reduces the blank page problem and makes it easier to ask for missing information consistently. Finally, measurement is built in. We can look at a month of work and answer what categories are the most common, where delays cluster, are exceptions growing or shrinking. This then helps the team decide what to improve next. For example, adding a better intake form, refining the categories, or clarifying ownership roles. To recap, a high-value AI workflow is not defined by how advanced it looks. It's defined by whether it reliably supports daily work. It captures requests consistently, it routes and drafts in a controlled way, it handles exceptions explicitly, and it measures the parts of the workflow that matter operationally. If you want to use AI across the business, starting with a workflow like this is often a sensible first step because it creates structure, visibility, and repeatability. If you'd like a practical view on which workflow to start with in your business, book a 15-minute call using the link below. We'll clarify priorities and outline sensible next steps. Thank you.